passion to every person in this room, I'm sure, who's made some progress in Toastmasters. The Toastmaster this evening is Lawrence Crompton.
Thank you, thank you. What a long meeting we've had. And so we're a little bit behind schedule, so rather than go into anything fancy, he's already prepared our different positions. Is there anybody here who needs or who would like to have a quick synopsis of what the different positions are for? We have some newer people here who would like to have that. Okay, so the Toastmaster is the MC of the program. That's the person who gets up and tries to get the meeting to flow in a proper way so that everything goes well. And then we have other positions, like for instance, our grammarian. Mike, would you like to explain what the grammarian does and also introduce us to the word of the day?
Sure. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike, for those that don't know me. I'll be acting as the grammarian, and in that role, I'll be counting the ums, the ahs, the crutch words that people use while they speak in efforts not to criticize in any way, but so that we all become more aware and that we work towards more eloquent speaking. And I will also introduce the word of the day, which today is flighty, meaning capricious, constantly changing emotions or opinions, irresponsible, skittish, flirtatious. While individual consumers are flighty and capricious, communities stick. All right, back to the Toastmaster.
Okay, we also have speakers which speak. We have table topics. And I can't read your writing. Susan. Okay, Susan is going to be our table topics. Would you like to explain what table topics do?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, since I've only been here 2 times, the table topics are sort of extemporaneous speaking questions that are asked on the fly, and you're asked to either volunteer or someone will appoint you a question to answer.
I love the table topics. That's my favorite part. I always think of it like major part of business is being able to speak on the fly, because if you happen to bump into your boss and he asks you how things are going and you're humming and hawing and whatever, trying to think of what to say, then it doesn't look as good as if you can take a second, pause for a second, think, and then give him a bright, or her, a bright and happy answer. And they think highly of that. Then we have the evaluation program. The evaluation program is going to be by Cody this evening. And so let's see can you explain what the general evaluator does?
Yeah, sure. So the general evaluator takes the meeting in as a whole. So I'll kind of evaluate how the meeting flowed and were we on time and things like that. And also I'm first evaluator, so I'll be evaluating David's speech. He's out of the competent communicator, so I have a set of guidelines that I'll critique him on, and I'll go up there and read my review of David's speech.
Okay, and the last one of the possibilities is our timer. You were also a speech evaluator, so you had mentioned that, right? So the speech evaluator just evaluates the individual speeches for various things. And then we have the timer. Diego, would you like to tell us what the timer does?
Hi everyone, I'm Diego. My responsibility will be keeping all the speeches, keeping the speech makers aware of the duration of their speech. Usually at the 5-minute mark, it's an indication of the minimum time requirement, which is a good indication of you're being succinct but also communicating really well. The amber mark indicates you're doing a good job of continuing to flesh out your ideas. But then finally the red marker indicates, okay, you're kind of overstaying your welcome, you need to wrap it up. So I will be indicating you know, a good idea of how much longer you should be speaking, basically. Back to the Toastmaster.
Okay, very good, very good. So, let us get started with this educational program. I'd like to invite up our first speaker. Our first speaker has been here for quite a few months now. Is this sales pitch speech going to be one of your
Apparently it is.
Vocal variety.
vocal variety? So that's speech number what?
7.
Speech number 7 in this creative communication project.
Research your topic. You're supposed to be doing local variety.
So he's going to be doing vocal variety. I guess it's 6 then. Whatever it is he's got, it's going to be the one that he's doing.
Considering this is unprepared, I don't think research your topic makes sense.
But spontaneous speaking is part of sales, so that makes sense. David?
Thank you, Lawrence. Today I want to talk about an apartment complex that during a global sales call last week with Sperry Commercial Global Affiliates, which is the brokerage company that I own a franchise office in. We actually have 3 franchise offices in Alabama. We kind of control Alabama. This investment offering was put up on the board by one of the affiliates in Longview, Texas. Megan started her presentation with a slide. As you can picture it, a picture of an ugly apartment building up in the corner. But what caught my eye was down in the corner, there was this little phrase that said 10.2% cap rate. Before she got the next word out of her mouth, I was already on LinkedIn messaging her saying, when we end this call, please call me about Rayanne Apartments. She called me, said that Rayanne Apartments is available. It is a true 10.28% cap rate. It is 38 units, and they're asking $995,000 for the property. And my jaw dropped. This is in Texas, Longview, Texas. It's 2 hours east of Dallas and about 40 minutes west of Shreveport, right along I-20. It is the town before Tyler, Texas. Most people know where Tyler is, don't know where Longview is. So I told her, when can I come look at the property? She said, well, come as soon as you want. And I said, well, the weather looks like it's going to be pretty bad. And keep in mind, this is just Tuesday of 2 weeks ago. Tuesday, 2 weeks ago. And we looked at the weather. The weather was very bad in the Texas area. That's when that big storm flooding everywhere. So we decided, my daughter, who is my acquisitions manager, myself, and I took my son with me because I'm trying to teach him how to invest in apartments. We went and looked at the property. It was as ugly as it appeared in the pictures. As other investors that are in the group, they know that ugly sometimes is good. It's in a decent neighborhood, about a B- neighborhood. It's probably a C, good solid C property, but it's 93% occupied. And the key to this investment was the fact that it had 2 employees on the property, a full-time manager and a full-time maintenance person, that was sucking $60,000 in expenses out of this property annually. Anybody that knows apartments knows that you do not need an on-site manager and on-site maintenance for a 38-unit building. You just don't need them. So day one, when we close on this property, we have an immediate savings in our expenses of $60,000. Well, to replace that, we have to add third-party management. So that increases, we subtract 60, we're going to increase 26, so we have a $34,000 savings day one. At that same 10% cap rate, we just increased the value of the property $340,000. Day one, without doing anything. All we did was lay off, I don't like to use the word fire, the manager and the maintenance person. So we looked at the property, everything looked great. There was a foundation issue on one of the buildings. The good news is, in Texas, it's not built on a slab, it's built on piers. So it has a great crawl space, so we can go in and repair the foundation issue on the one building. 8 of the units have already been fully rehabbed and are getting close to market rents. And parking lot needed some repair. Roofs were just replaced a year ago. Roofs were brand new. Needs paint on the outside. Most of the windows have been replaced. We'd say 90% of the windows have been replaced with dual pane windows. There really wasn't a whole lot to do. So we anticipated about a $250,000 budget for this property, which is a pretty small budget. Most of that is going to go to the outside. We're saving about $90,000 for interior renovations, where we'll change the flooring to a vinyl plank flooring. It looks like wood, but they're vinyl planks. They're 4 inches by 36 inches long. They can connect together and they can glue down. We like the LVL, which connects together. Makes it look like a real nice floor. Granite looking, keyword, looking countertops. They can make them where they're rounded edges so they don't have that square face that a normal laminate has, and they look real good. Brushed nickel fixtures, brushed nickel lighting fixtures with LED lighting, some ceiling fans, some interior paint, and that's really all you have to do to the inside. We anticipated $6,000 per unit inside, but that's kind of an overkill. You really don't need $6,000 per unit on the inside, but it's better to be conservative than not. So $250,000 total budget. It was a no-brainer. We put it under contract. We got agreement. We just went ahead full price because I knew there were 3 other people that were going to put an offer on this thing. We went full price. We won the bid on the property and we're under contract. We're raising the $300,000. That $300,000 represents $50,000 in acquisition and $250,000 in the renovation budget. We're already talking to a lender. We're looking at a non-recourse $1 million loan, 25-year AM, 5.5% interest with a 7-year call, meaning in 7 years that loan's due. We're going to be out 7 years anyway, so that worked out great. We're offering the investors a 10% preferred return, so that means that the investors get 10% of the money before the sponsors take anything, and then we're going to split 50-50 after that. Year 1, because of just the decrease in the expenses, nothing else, no raises in rents or anything, year 1 cash on cash is 20.05%, which is incredible on a property in today's market. If anybody wants any more information about this offering for Rayanne Apartments, let me know. I can email you the offering materials. Please make sure I've known you for at least 45 days because this is a 506D offering. So if I don't know you, I can't send it to you. Cody, I look forward to hearing from you. Mr. Toastmaster.
That's me.
That's you.
That's me. I've lost it. Sorry. Very nice. Yes, I'm quite excited about that because I have invested in real estate before, and I really can see how that's going to be a real killer property for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I would like to invite our second speaker up, and that's going to be Thomas Jester, our president, and he's going to be speaking about whatever.
So I don't talk about my work much here. I usually, in my speeches, talk about my home life, my family, nerdy or geeky things, because that's what I'm really into. Tonight I'm going to talk to all of you tonight about what I do for a living. I'm a water resource planner for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I have 7 years experience doing that, where I have climbed the ladder faster than most people in my field. So I'm obviously not bad at it. I'm not going to tell you I'm the greatest, but I'm not bad, because if you're bad, you don't climb the ladder. What a water resource planner does is scientific planning. Now, it may not sound like something you can do, but it is. And it's something that always helps you get to maybe not always the best solution, but a really good, justifiable, solid solution to whatever your problem is. There's only 6 steps. The first step is identifying your problem. Now that doesn't mean like, oh, well, I'm just not making enough money. Now that's identifying a symptom. I'm not making enough money. Well, why aren't you making enough money? Oh, I don't have enough education. Why don't you have enough education? Oh, because I dropped out of high school. Okay, so here's the problem. We've identified the problem. So you have to actually get to the root of your problem by continuing to ask, well, is that actually the cause? Is that the cause? Is that the cause? And then when you get to the bottom, you've identified your problem. Along with identifying problems, you're going to be able to identify opportunities, which are the things you can change to make things better. For the example, using David's example there, he went out and he saw problems. He needed to upgrade and update some fixtures in his apartment so that he could up the rent later. But he saw opportunities as well as the problems. The problem is I can't get the rent I want. I'm going to update the fixtures, I'm going to make them look nice, and I'll be able to get the rent I want. So he did scientific planning. He just did it really quick because he has that much experience in that field. With that, you're also going to be able to identify your objectives. This is all the first step. And you're able to identify what you can't do. So once you identify what's wrong, what you can do to fix it, how your objective is how you're going to measure that you're fixing it, and what you're not able to do, meaning, well, I can't just go rob banks. So that I'm not making more money robbing banks. You've kind of set some parameters, and that's what makes this start being scientific. The next thing you do is you go and find data in order to better identify your problem, better identify your solutions that would work, better identify how you'd see your solutions working, getting a better objective there. You're then going to just evaluate possible solutions. Actually, you're going to come up with possible solutions. I currently work in flood risk. Flood risk means somebody's houses are flooding in a city, and we try to figure out how to make them flood less. Not necessarily not flood, just flood less. So for us, that typically means dams, levees, deeper channels, wider channels to convey water in. For you in your life, a personal thing, it could be, well, I'm not a good public speaker. I gotta practice it. I gotta get up there a lot. I just gotta get the courage to do it. Whatever your problem is, you identify things that you can use to fix it. You then look at individually all of the different solutions, using data, whatever. Your gut feeling counts as data. David's gut feelings about a property counted as so much data that he's already set for first year of profit. Because his gut feelings were that good, because he has the experience behind it. So your gut feelings can count as data. So don't discard those. So after you've gathered your data for evaluating each individual thing, you're not comparing anything to anything else. You're saying, that would make me $45 more a month. That would make me $100 more a month. Just the data itself. Once you have that data, that's when you compare. That's when you get to the step, well, which one of these is better? Because everybody knows with everything that you do, there's good parts and there's bad parts. And sometimes your bad part is not worth the differential in your good parts. I dated a girl once who, one of the best looking girls who ever agreed to go out on a date. Not gonna lie. And she was into geeky stuff. However, as I got to know her more, girl was full on crazy. No matter how gorgeous she was and how into the same stuff I was she was, that was not worth full on crazy. So all of the good, there's a bad that way outweighed it. And so you do it that way. You look at the good and the bad and you see where that line is. Yeah, that good is still worth the additional effort, the additional bad that comes with it. And that's how you make your decision. That's the last step. Make a decision. And in doing that, you've gone scientific instead of being flighty, like many of us are when we make decisions. Where we're like, oh, I'm not sure. And then we make a decision. No, I'm not sure. And we make the decision, and then we go, I'm not sure again. I was that way for a very long time. I actually developed this skill before I got my job by picking a major. I got data to back up the major I picked. I wanted to be a mathematician. Do you know how much money a mathematician makes? A really good one can make $60,000 a year. And those top, we're talking, that's the top-notch earners in the field. I wanted to have a family. That doesn't mix. $60,000 and more than 2 kids is a no-go. So I changed. Nope. As much as I'd love being a mathematician the rest of my life, that is not worth starving. And so what can you do with that? Well, I can be a physicist. Top physicists make 75. That's not much better. I could be an engineer. You look at engineers, and engineers can easily crack that 6-figure income. Perfect. So you can be scientific in any type of decision you make. And when you are, generally when you look back on your life, you're happy with those decisions because you don't feel like you got took. Mr. Toastmaster.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, quite interesting. I was at the Corps of Engineers meeting the other day. I didn't see you there.
I'm on that project, and Twitter on.
But also today, just as another aside, I just heard today that NOAA came out with a prediction that over the next 20 years, there's going to be considerably more high tide coastal flooding in the Gulf of Mexico and on the Atlantic. So you're going to be busy, very busy. Now, for the next exciting adventure in Toastmasters, we're going to go into our Table Topics program. Now, Table Topics, again, are a point where you can be flighty. You can come up here and just whimsy and just do whatever you want. And I would like to invite Susan to come up and give us this evening's Table Topics.
I'm Susan Murphy, and I'll be conducting Table Topics tonight. Do I have a volunteer for the first question? Diego?
Can someone time me?
Yes, sure, I got you.
Okay, here is your question, Diego. Thank you for coming. Mentors are very important in life. In what ways, either formally or informally, have you mentored someone?
Oh boy. Honestly, I think I fell short on this answer because I honestly cannot think of a person yet that I feel I've mentored yet. Perhaps, maybe just by surrounding myself with people that I care a lot about. Maybe in some way I rubbed off a little bit on them, and I'm sure they in turn rubbed off a little bit on me. I don't think I'm at that age yet where I feel that I've mentored anyone necessarily. But I can think of plenty of people in my life who have mentored me in many ways. But I don't. But since this is a very short table topics period, I don't want to waste a lot of time or take away from other people's time. So unfortunately, I must fall short on this answer and say I honestly can't think of someone that I mentored before. Sorry.
I would imagine that you're right in that just in the course of your life, you probably have influenced someone for good. I mean, especially in view of your environmental passions. You know, perhaps even talking in here, you've influenced someone to love the environment more. Okay. Who would like to do the next table topic?
Cody.
Cody. Okay, Cody. Let's see. Okay. In what way or ways have you stepped out of your comfort zone in the last 12 months?
year was a series of events where I decided to get a little more comfortable. This being one of them. I'm, not the best public speaker, never have been, so I decided, well, I need to get better at that, so I decided to come to Toastmasters and sharpen my skills in public speaking. Also, I decided that I need to get more involved in the community, and one way to do that was join a social club. And luckily, David was in the Rotary, and he was able to invite me and get me inducted into the Rotary Club of West Mobile. And that was kind of stepping out of my comfort zone because I'm more of an introverted person and kind of meeting new people, and I enjoyed it. And so now I'm trying to think, what else can I do? What's the next step to step out of my comfort zone? So I need to figure that out for this year. Hopefully I'll have something good and I can talk about it sometime in this club. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. All right. We have one more to do. Okay.
Mike.
Mike. Thank you, Mike. What is the most stressful job you've had, and in what ways did you learn from that experience?
Thank you. All right. Well, hello everyone that I don't know. As I said, I'm Mike, serving as the grammarian, which is not the most stressful job that I've had. Right now, I'm a chemical engineer, which may sound pretty stressful. I design large pieces of equipment. Hopefully no one gets hurt, that sort of thing. But that really pales in comparison to what the most stressful job I've ever had. And that would be a grill operator at the Waffle House. And this is limited in time. I could go on for a very long time, and I have at length the different stories that happened at Waffle House, especially working the night shift. But during school, during one summer, I took a job at the Waffle House because I wanted to stay in school and do some summer classes, take some online classes. Really, I just wanted any sort of joke job that'll help pay the bills. I went to school in Blacksburg where rent's really cheap, so it was absolutely up my alley. But obviously, they need help on Saturday and Sunday morning. And I was certainly not the most professional employee they've ever had. I came in late way too often, and I was always on waffle and toast duty, and they really pile up. And I tell you, you really don't want to leave the waffle batter in those pans longer than they should, or else it just creates a huge mess. It's sticking all over the place. And I certainly had a long few shifts at that Waffle House during that summer, and I was happy to get rid of that job and go back to school full time. Without a doubt, that was my most stressful job. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Joe. And now, am I going to recruit someone for the next? No. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, the next part of our program is going to be the general evaluation, when we get the opportunity to find out how good we did and what we can use for improvement. So I'd like to invite our general evaluator up, Mr. Cody Bassard.
We need to get better at easy speed because that's why I started late. So we were here fairly early, but I was the only one to sign up on easy speed, and that always creates a little bit of a problem trying to get everybody organized. So if you can, for the future, you know, even just an hour before, it helps. So when you go to print the agenda, sign up for a role on easy speed. Also, we've been missing Ewing, who helps us do that at the end of the meetings. We did have a good turnout. Got some new guests. Welcome. Thank you for coming out. A lot better turnout last week. We had like 4 people, and we still were able to make the meeting. And we also had 2 really great speeches. So I am the first evaluator for tonight as well. So we're going to go into the evaluation of David Monroe's speech. He is on vocal writing, which is speech number 6 out of the competent communicator. So there's a series of questions that asked me to kind of rate David on his vocal variety. So the topic selection, I thought it was a good topic for David because he's obviously very passionate about the subject, and that really came through in his speech. Very good volume for the room size. I believe everybody could hear him, no problem. Wasn't too loud, but it's almost just right there. You have a very smooth rate, David. You're not going too fast or too slow. Very audible. Felt like everyone should be able to understand you well, no matter what position they were sitting in the room. Good pitch as well. Quality, it was well researched. You knew the topic. You didn't need to use any notes, so that was good. You had some effective pauses, so you kind of pause for a second, collect your thoughts, kind of let the audience hear what you're saying. You had a lot of information, so always good to have some pauses when you're delivering a lot of information. Expressiveness, yeah, definitely sense the passion, so I could see your face kind of light up when you first started talking about it, and you know when you first were introduced to the deal, you could tell that it was something you were excited to go check out in Texas. Vocal variety was good. You had some change in pitches, different segments, kind of kept us interested, and it's always nice to hear some different variations of voice. Organization was good. I know it's kind of an impromptu for you. You gave us an overview of the property, and then you kind of closed with how an investor could get involved. So I thought, for a sales pitch, it was good for an organization. Word usage was good. You had good detail describing what the property looked like beforehand, and also, you're going in pretty good detail on the renovation areas, so we could kind of see with what you were going to do to each unit. And body language is great. You're very comfortable. You walked around, good hand gestures. So awesome job on that. So what could the speaker have done differently to make the speech more effective? I think the speech was a little bit number intensive. So for somebody that maybe is not familiar with all the investment terminology, it might have been a little heavy for them. But overall, I thought it was a really good speech, and that's the only kind of critique that I could find. And what did I like about the speech? I really enjoyed the body language and passion of the speech. You just seemed real confident, commanded the stage, which is great when you're trying to sell something. And yeah, just the overall confidence. Great speech, David. Thank you. I will now introduce the second evaluator, and sorry, your name?
Rosemary.
Rosemary.
This is the first time I've ever evaluated, so I'm sorry. I apologize for any errors or anything on my part. I evaluated Thomas's speech, and it was a get-to-the-point speech on scientific planning. And to me, the general purpose of the speech was clear. It was pretty explicit. You stated it. The organization, I like that you broke it down into steps. To me, I think in bullet points, so that was perfect for me. And it was organized in a way in which others could implement it into their own lives. Main points and supporting material, I believe you contributed to the purpose of your speech. Again, you broke it down for all of us in a way that we could apply to our own logic, our own methodology, and into our own working lives or our personal lives. You appeared confident and sincere. It felt like we were just kind of having a conversation. You seemed very natural. It wasn't forced. It wasn't awkward in any way. And I was engaged the entire time you were speaking. And I've noticed you just kind of I got to see your personality, and we got to learn about your work life. And yeah, you just seemed very natural up here. And you did not rely on any notes throughout the entire speech, which I hope you wouldn't need to if you were talking about your work life. And what you could have done differently, I would think For me, I would have liked maybe a review or a summary at the very end of all the steps, just to have them all in one little succinct sentence. And what did I like most about the presentation? I liked how you broke it down and made it easy to implement into our own lives. And that's it.
Thank you, Rosemary, for that evaluation. Good job for your first one. Now we will have the timers report from Diego.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So we had a total of 7 speakers today. The first speaker was David, and he spoke for 6 minutes and 53 seconds, just under the amber mark. So good job. Well done on being succinct and then adding more to your point, but being able to wrap up in a very nice way. Our second speaker was Thomas, and he spoke for 7 minutes and 15 seconds. A little bit over the mark, but still a very enjoyable presentation. Followed by myself in the table topics, I spoke for a minute. Cody was up next, he spoke for 1 minute and 2 seconds. Finally, we had Mike at table topics, who spoke for 1 minute and 54 seconds. The first evaluation lasted, which was done by Cody, lasted for 2 minutes and 35 seconds. And finally, the second evaluation was conducted by Rosemary, and she spoke for 2 minutes and 28 minutes. Back to the general evaluator.
All right, thank you, Diego. Great timers report. Now Mike will deliver the grammarian report.
All right. For grammarian, I felt like we had a very challenging meeting, given that just about everything was impromptu. That being said, I'll offer some feedback. Lawrence actually had 2 ums/ahs when trying to come up with an impromptu introduction to speeches, which I feel like is very understandable. Lawrence also had the word of the day. Thomas also had the word of the day and 2 ums/ahs. David had 1. I had 2. Diego had 4. Rosemary had 4. And I also feel like I've identified a little bit of an epidemic where we've had, I think, 7 you knows in all of our speeches. And we also had 1 kind of, which is not necessarily a crush word, but it can be used in that way. So I feel like just bringing awareness to the word of you know would perhaps do some of this. But anyway, back to Cody.
Thank you, Mike, for that detailed grammarian report. So that will wrap up this portion of the meeting for the evaluations. No educational review. Yeah. Do you have something? We got 5 minutes. So,
I mean, I could do something if you want. If you want.
well, I guess we can fill the roles. Probably.
Yeah, I'll just turn the time over to you.
All right. I will now relinquish lectern back to our Toastmaster, Lauren.
Thank you, thank you. Very good, very good.
Yes, I think we had so many new people doing jobs that they had not normally done before. I thought it was very good. I really enjoyed the new energy that came with it. So it was very good. I don't think we have any awards or anything this evening. So all in all, I think our meeting has gone well, and I'd like to turn it back, or I would like to relinquish the lectern back to our president.
So let's give you, last week I didn't make it. Last week I was talking to some of you guys before the meeting. We had a major milestone at work. What that major milestone consisted of was a 1-hour presentation given by yours truly to people who work in Washington, directly with senators and the president, and convince them to fund projects. Because of practice here in just presenting things, in the 1-hour presentation, I actually did keep track. I didn't repeat words, and I didn't have filler words. I had rehearsed said presentation about 13 times to 10 different audiences, some of which were very tired of hearing it because they were in every audience. So, what we do here does have a major impact in your professional life. My personal life, table topics helps a lot in my personal life because I don't really associate with people who are into nerdy and geeky things like me, so I have to be off the cuff a lot. But in professional life, what we do practice here really does make a difference. It's made it so that I have gone from 4 years ago getting just out of being an intern to right now I'm talking to my bosses about applying to be the supervisor for my section. And they're not telling me to not do it. In fact, they're encouraging me to do it, and every time I talk to them, one of them says, I'm sorry it hasn't been announced yet, but it's going to be announced this week. So it does make a difference. It is helpful, especially in your professional life. So no matter how little progress you may feel like you're making, keep at it. It's worth it. With that, we don't have to do a agenda for next week because we will be learning all about pathways in vivid detail.
So we're based, so really there's no opportunity to do a speech for the next 3 weeks.
There will not be a speech
Wow.
unless you're doing a speech competition and your speech could double up into one of your actual speeches. You will not be able to give a speech until April.
Wow.
Because next week we'll be learning all about pathways. The next week we will be having our speech competition, and then the next week we'll be hosting the division speech competition. So it's a busy month of March, but then in April we're going to hit it hard, and we're going to get our speeches all in. So we'll all get our competent communicators by June, right?
That's what I'm
And then maybe we'll have a pathway.
Yeah, we'll all get our competent communicators before pathways starts. No, that's just a joke. So, with that, our meeting is adjourned.